and dark. On the road and no way out. Broken hearts, the smoking gun. On the run. On the run.
Oh, yeah. It's Wednesday night. Welcome, Clyde Lewis listeners. What a great show the guys put on tonight over Ground Zero and then, of course, Beyond Zero. They continually raise the bar. My face hurts because I was laughing so hard. That's right. Well, let me just say, it's Wednesday night, and you know what that means.
Me, I don't want to make a mistake, jeopardize my future. You want to know something? Every now and then, say what the fuck. What the fuck gives you freedom? Freedom brings opportunity. Opportunity makes your future.
Your stats are very respectable. You've done some solid work here. But it's not quite Ivy League now, is it?
You know, Bill, there's one thing I've learned in all my years. Sometimes you gotta say, what the fuck?
I beg your pardon?
The average fan listens for, are you ready for this? An hour and 20 minutes.
How can that be?
Answer most commonly given, I want to see what he'll say next.
All right, okay, fine. But what about the people who hate?
Good point. The average hater listens for 2.5 hours a day.
Look, but if they hate him, why do they listen?
Most common answer, I want to see what he'll say next.
My name's Jimmy, and Into the Microcosm is on the yacht.
Ejaculator? Damn it. You know, why you gotta bring that up? I don't even believe in that. I don't. If I come, man, it was right on time. That's the way I see it. As far as I'm concerned, I can't come fast enough. You know, I'm sick of being vilified all the time. David, how could you? How could you come? I was fucking. What were you trying to do, huh? Come. Well, I beat you. You gotta work on your time, baby. I'm down to 1:20. Get mad at me because I have different goals in sex. I'm a speed fucker. Just trying to hit my best time. It's like the Olympics. And now for the dismount.
Epic Journeyman. Are you there?
I'm here.
Excellent. Well, it's good to see you, man. It looks like you got a piece of seaweed wrapped around your lay there. You might want to get rid of that seaweed. You look like you just...
That's pretty disgusting. There's no seaweed in Hawaii. That means there's something else.
Well, that must be something
man.
else. Who knows what that is? Well, it's good to see you, man.
Some sea debris.
I know. Well, it's WTF Wednesday night.
Yeah, what the F is that? Yeah, exactly.
What the hell?
Get that thing off me.
What the hell
I
happened?
got dismount from that right immediately.
Immediately, if not sooner. No, that was some funny stuff, man. It's Dave Chappelle, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Chappelle. Put your hands together for him. So it is fantastic to see you. It's fantastic to see everybody. Look at the lively people in the chat room. It is going berserko in there, berserker. And what, like I said earlier, what a great show, Clyde Lewis and the team. And then, of course, after Beyond Zero with Ronnie P, Wes, and of course the big man, Clyde Lewis. What's up, everybody? Good to see you. So yeah, we made it, man. Hump day. Did you make it over the hump, dude? I mean, seriously, come on. Did you make it? Are you still
barely? Yeah, we actually had every day is an emergency at work. but we made it over the hump there.
Well, you know what
they improvised. I had to play MacGyver today,
Did you?
Fix stuff. So.
Well, they used to say that on days like that they got you by the balls on a downhill drag. You ever heard that? Got you by the balls on a downhill drag.
It's a good lyric. I haven't heard it before.
Well, it's not a lyric, but you definitely don't want anybody to get you by the balls on a downhill drag. That doesn't sound fun. But then again, I mean, if you drop your keys up in San Francisco, you know what you do if you drop your keys on Castro Street in San Francisco?
You hop in the car and just hope that the door's locked, I guess. I don't know.
No, you kick them down to Market. you kick them down to Market before you pick them up, son. That's what you do. But that's a San Francisco joke, and, maybe you don't get it. But anyway.
That's why they have those great soccer players in San Francisco.
I know, it's a wild time in San Francisco, and it's getting wilder. I mean, stores are closed. There was so much shoplifting that they got to this point where they said, hey, man, if you see people shoplifting, just go ahead and let them take it. And there people were literally, once they found this out, I mean, there's videos, you can go watch them, where people were literally going into these, like MAC Cosmetics, which is super expensive stuff. They were going in there with black plastic trash bags and filling them up and just walking out the door, man. And nobody was doing anything. So I think like a couple of the, the chain drugstores up there, they just straight up closed their stores, because they couldn't handle all the shoplifting that was going on. But, that's what happens when, so everybody in San Francisco, there was an area there that was the last remaining shithole, basically. And it's called Hunter's Point. And originally this was a middle class area, for black folks. It's like a black folk middle class area. But then as time went on, it became this, degraded into this situation where there's a lot of low-income families and just a lot of poverty and a lot of messed up, it's like a lot of dope going on and a lot of shit going on. But this is just outside of, just another quarter mile up the road, and you're on Market Street, which all the biggest and bestest stores are there, from a retail perspective. But so...
right.
Right. So, but for the most part, I mean, the Hunter's Point situation stayed over in Hunter's Point. You had the Mission and all this. And this is where, you found a lot of drugs and dope and all this. So anyways, the reason I'm giving you all this background information is to kind of, because you hear people talk about San Francisco and what's going on up there right now. And I'm trying to let everybody know exactly how it ended up being like this, because what happened was that land down there, that old middle-class black neighborhood that ended up becoming a pit, well, that became real valuable. But one of the things that was wrong with that land was that there was a lot of chemicals and stuff that had been dumped there, early on, before they knew it was bad for the environment or whatever. So it was a toxic waste dump, as it is and as it was. Hang on a second. Let me see here. So it was a toxic waste dump, like I say, as it was. And then all of a sudden, it became this last bastion of free space in San Francisco, and everybody started to move in there and started to build. And so they built a giant hospital complex right over the top of this toxic waste dump. They probably forgot about that part, though. But they built a big Kaiser hospital over there. And, so what happens is then now all those people who could only afford to live in the pit, now they don't have anywhere to live because they've been priced out. People have been bought up.
Got gentrified.
Exactly.
Gentrified, exactly. Yeah, and San Diego's the same thing. It's happening everywhere, but there's like one little bastion in San Diego is the same thing, and it's all been gentrified the same way. And now nobody, the people who had the low income neighborhood, it was a low income neighborhood. They can't afford to live in their own neighborhood. But if they own, which none of them hardly did, landlords did, they could just sell it, and now where they go, they kind of where to go, yeah, it's a problem. It's a real problem. I don't know how we're going to deal with it, actually. But yeah, San Francisco is kind of the prototype because it happened there first. That's why they get that. We're going to talk probably about it because we brought this story up now about the pods and how people are being moved to these pods. The very people who got this place are going to live in these little 3x6 cubicles. They're not even cubicles. They're just like little lateral pods, maybe 4 feet tall. We can just enough for you to sit on your like Indian style and watch a TV that they provide for you. It's a little like 13-inch TV, and give you internet connection. You pay $1,400 a month to live in this little pod. And it's literally a converted storage building that's like 6 stories. Not 6 stories.
Well,
but
doesn't
levels of high.
Okay, doesn't an ecosystem develop when there's a food source? Okay, so listen.
Right.
Okay, so now we've discovered a food source. What is the food source in San Francisco? Well, what it is there's a bunch of people there. They're working there. Okay, they work there, but they cannot afford to live there. Okay, so what now? I'll tell you what now. How about this? You go over there, you get some of this empty warehouse space, and you do exactly what Epic Journeyman is saying. You get a bunch of PVC pipes, some 4-footers or whatever, and you make some beds out of them, and you space them out, and you stack them, and you put in a common area where people can eat, like all high end, like granite, countertops, and really nice stainless steel, area to cook and all this. People will take that $2,600 a month basic income, and they will move into those things in droves. I mean, you can start building those out now, and I get you'll be full before you can say Jack Robinson, man. Not to mention the fact that then you got, all this delivery systems now. You can, call up, get your groceries delivered. You call up, get your weed delivered. You can call up and get just about anything delivered at this point. So, I mean, you don't even need a car anymore. You could eliminate cars for these people. And, how much could you charge for one of these? Well, how about $1,500 a month? How's that sound?
Yeah, the going rate's $1,400. What last year? Maybe it's $1,500 now. That's a fact. They made them.
I just picked $1,500 because I know you're getting $2,600 on the income. So I'm picking $1,500 because that's going to leave you a certain amount of money to live on. And with the given inflation or whatever, you're going to be eating top ramen. You're not going to be cooking steaks on the nice stainless steel kitchen over there in the common area at the Tube Hotel. Okay, you're going to be eating top ramen or cricket burgers or whatever. Because this, I mean, have you gone outside? Have you gone to the store lately? Serious?
Well, I do, but yeah, a lot of people don't.
No, I went to the store earlier, and I was just going to pop in and grab some shampoo real quick, on my way out. And I go up to the shampoo aisle, and I'm looking down at the shampoo. Now, back in the day, I used to go get my shampoo at the beauty supply house because my mom was a hairstylist, so she could go get the best stuff on the discount. And so, feeding your hair the vitamins and all this, and it was expensive. You're going to pay like $25 for a bottle of shampoo or whatever, So that was back in the day. So anyway, I go in there today, and I go to the regular old grocery store, like, drugstore style, like the ones that closed up in San Francisco. I go to one of those, and every single bottle of shampoo on that shelf is like $20, and it's like the cheap shit. I'm just saying.
Suave Elite.
Exactly. And so it's $20 over there, and then I go over to the grocery store, and hamburgers like $6.50 a pound or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, the inflation that's going on right now is out of control, man. It's not. I mean, just seriously out of control to the point where people are literally not ready for what's about to. I mean, I don't mean to, piss on anybody's parade or whatever. I'm just saying. If you're not squirreling away some stuff, man, to survive, in the upcoming situation, you're going to be putting yourself in a dangerous scenario. Wouldn't you say, Epic Journeyman? Because listen, the supply line is fucked. Have you seen all those SUVs that are sitting in Kentucky at the racetrack? Because they don't have.
No, I haven't. I've seen it before though.
Well, they don't have a chip.
Before.
Well,
Yeah.
No, they're missing. They're missing.
Yeah, they can't sell them. Can't finish the car.
So what happens to all these cars? So look, what happened to all the cars in 2021, man? You know, they're already onto the 2023 model at this point, aren't they not? So now,
Yeah, because they couldn't sell them because of the pandemic. You're right. And then the rental car agencies, they sold all their cars because people weren't renting cars. Now the pandemic's, letting up, people can travel again. They don't have cars to rent. And now they can't get new cars because they don't have the chip to finish the cars.
Well, you know, it's all of a sudden, the tables seem to be turning in the favor of the people, man. Because, look, the only thing that can happen from that is the prices of cars are going down. And the other thing that I've noticed, too, is these statistics that came out yesterday, which was a record number of available jobs and a record number of people quitting their jobs at the same time. And I mean, what's going on now is people are hiring and they can't find workers because the workers are saying, F you, man. You want me to come back to work over there, you better start paying me some money,
Yeah, exactly. I think it's the benefit, the best thing that came out of this is that people got a chance to work from home, right? And the people, they're never going back to an office. Why would they? That's stupid. Right? Why am I going to get sick going to the office? But not only that, why do office, managers want to have an office in the first place? Have all that overhead, pay for all the electric bill and all that stuff. It's stupid. So that's going away. And then, but the main thing was, what people realized that the asset they gained was, it wasn't money because they're out of money because they're not working, right? They're not making as much. It's time. They gained all their time back and they liked it. That's worth more than any amount of money you can give anyone. When you're down to your last 10 minutes of life, you'll give everything you have to live another 10 minutes, right?
There you go.
If you're in a decent state, that's the way it is. And so people made that realization, and they're not going to go back and work for the man for $7.50 an hour or whatever in tips. Bullshit. No. Why would they?
No.
Right?
That's right.
So yeah, I think it's good. I think it's actually a good thing.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying there's a lot of good things that happened out of this, man. I mean, I'm just saying there's less traffic. There's less planes in the sky. I mean, there's less people around.
The fish are back if you're going to go fish in the ocean.
Just saying, man. There's a lot of good things that happened out of it. So, we can focus on the good stuff and we can focus on the bad stuff. Either way, the thing is to focus in. It's funny because I saw, on Facebook, they send you little messages from years gone by. Hey, here's a 3-year-old memory for you. So it was funny because I got this memory from Facebook from 4 years ago or 3 years ago. No, 2018. I did a show. You know what it was called? The Reset.
Nice.
Yeah. It's interesting because, there's my poster and there is me calling it The Reset years before it was The Reset. So it's interesting. I'm just saying it was an interesting moment for me, So that's what happens when, you're on these shows and you're on these airwaves every single night. You talk about stuff just like Clyde Lewis. Look, Clyde was right because Clyde's talking about stuff way before anybody else is. And, that typically happens around the alternative media for the most part. But, the moment it gets traction, then it becomes in heavy rotation or whatever. Then you got to look at it a little deeper when you say a little deeper. Just a little. They were going nuts in the chat room about food. Moose Girls, garlic ruined salmon. Garlic ruined salmon, in case you didn't know. Moose Girl says over in the chat room, aftermath.media, aftermath FM. I'm Jimmy. It's in the microcosm. We're hanging low. It's WTF. What the F Wednesday. And, what the F? Epic Journeyman, because there's stuff going on, and we will get into some of these current situations that are happening as we speak. What are you looking at today as far as current events? Because the current events that are going on around here is nothing but I'll tell you what. I asked you to put that clip back on the cage. That parrot is out, man.
Oh, there he goes.
You let him out, dude. Watch out.
I ate the crackers. I didn't. That's my bad. Sorry.
Man, you let out the parrot, dude. You got troubles now, dude. Watch out. No. Throw a towel over that thing, man.
Cracker, right?
Jesus Christ. Oh, man. Whew. It's a good thing you had that beach towel still around your neck, dude. Otherwise, we might have been torn to shreds. That thing hates me. I don't know what it is. I think it hates men. I think it's a man hater.
That's what it is, you know. That's what it is. You know, when say bond with the girl, I think it's maybe bonded to Danny right now. And so that's it. You know, they always bond with the opposite sex.
That's right.
It's actually
that's
a girl
true.
parrot. You know.
That's true.
Or actually, no, it is a man parrot. I'm sorry, but yeah, I had it right the first time. And it hates men because of that. Yeah, I had a girlfriend who had a exotic bird, and man, that thing would not shut up. And it was ignored. If you ignored it, it was like Glenn Close from Fatal Attraction. You know, I'm not gonna be ignored. You know, it would just go off. It just go off. You know,
it just yelled.
And,
did it talk?
Oh yeah.
What did it say?
Well, pretty much what the fuck.
That's what it said.
No.
No, seriously. Yeah, no, it's just funny what parrots say. And like, could you imagine if you had a parrot and you had it, you know, 'cause so they live. My mom had an Amazon macaw. You know, that thing lived like 35 years or whatever. And you had them for a long time. So let's say you had one, and when you got it, you were married. Okay. And so then, you know, you guys split up and you went your separate ways, but you know, there was your parrot, because you know, he sits on your shoulder. He's like your buddy. You know, you're a pirate. You need your parrot. You can't, you know what I mean? Look, you said, honey, you can have the pool table, okay? And you could have the 56 Corvette, but you're not getting that parrot. And so in the divorce, you guys broke up. You went your separate ways. You got your parrot. But unfortunately for you, your wife was in the house when the parrot was growing up, and now the parrot repeats all the shit your wife used to say. Epic,
did that happen?
Take out that trash. Epic, take out the trash. Epic.
Yeah, the same girl, her friend took care of another bird, right? Because they all know each other. But bird people all know each other because they try to train the birds. If you're in a particular enclave in a city, because they all try to train the birds, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, the thing is that bird, the owners went on vacation, and apparently they had that bird in the bedroom the whole time. I think I've told the story before. It just starts going off all of a sudden, you know.
So you were watching the bird, and then the bird started making sex noises from the couple.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, wow.
It starts to do these crude things. I wasn't going to say it on the air because it's even crude for that. But yeah, I mean, it's totally the bedroom dirty talk, man. You know.
It's too much. In the middle of the night.
What you say around those birds, it's like they're like kids, man. The most inappropriate thing is what they're going to repeat, you know.
Mm-hmm. I feel it, man. You know, birds. I mean, I love birds. You know, there's plenty of them. You know, and all different kinds. That's one of the things cool about traveling too. Is you go around, you see different kinds of birds you don't see normally when you're at your house. They're all different colors and this and that. Like you know, you go to someplace like Australia, and parakeets are just in the trees or whatever. I mean, they're just like sparrows over here. So.
Oh yeah, they're like pigeons. Yeah, definitely. The cockatoos and stuff. Those especially those kind of pinkish ones.
Yeah.
That
was a cool show in the '70s. Was Beretta with the cockatoo.
But before he killed his wife, right?
If he did, you know, who knows? You know, maybe
Bird says so.
Maybe he went off the reservation. His contract was up, and then that was how he was going to go out. A few people have gone out that way. What about that other dude? What about Kelsey Grammer's wife? That was kind of fishy too. But then
she died. I didn't know she died. I met her. The redheaded one.
No,
San Diego. Yeah.
No, I was talking about there was a blonde one. I think that drowned.
Oh, okay. Because he was married multiple times.
Maybe I'm superimposing that over Beretta, but I think she was another blonde that died in the pool or something. I don't know. There's something fishy about those pools. Hey man, nice shot. It's Aftermath FM. Tune in, turn on, and find out. Monday through Friday, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. The shows on here: Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray Valentine, The Haterazzi, Steve, Slow News Day. What the F is wrong with people? The list goes on and on. And the shows are off the chain.
You
My name's Jimmy. It's Into the Microcosm. We are losing our democracy. It's Into the Microcosm. And we've been joined by Steve Poignan from Slow News Day. Steve, are you there?
Jimmy, it is fantastic to see you again, my friend.
What's happening, man? How you doing? It's good to see you. Been a couple weeks. Yeah. How's it going?
How's Steve?
Yeah, hey, man, that show on Saturday, Sunday, right? What is it, Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday.
That show was a good show, man. That was a great show. That banter, you guys had some great conversations going on, man.
That was
serious.
Such a good time. Such a good time.
Yeah.
We had an enormous panel. If you didn't see it, you really missed out on it. There were people that, according to the vast majority of I guess political YouTube or independent media writ large, people on the panel and including me, we were all the people that should not talk to each other, that technically are not supposed to have anything in common or have any kind of common ground. So we all sat down, about 8 or 9 of us, and had just a wonderful, hilarious, informative and spirited conversation. There was some pushback, there mutual respect, and it was lovely. It was. We're gonna do something like that again real soon.
It was great, and that, there was a key moment for me when I was listening, when Burmis was on there with you, and you guys were kind of talking about the different phases of things that have gone on, in the alternative media, and how it looked at one point, kind of how it looks now, and where people are at. People, tried and true veterans of info war or whatever. I mean, because everybody that deals with this type of information takes a beating, man. No, I don't care how strong you are or whatever you say or how grounded you may be or what your health is. This information, a lot of it is really takes a lot out of you, and so over the years, we start off, at the beginning of whatever it was that draws us to the information. It's sort of like a conveyor belt. You start here, you go down, 9/11 was an inside, JFK, what happened, 9/11 was an inside job, down the conveyor belt, the Masons are bad, da-da-da-da, they want to kill you and your family, da-da-da-da. You go down, and then eventually, and it's the end of the world a bunch of times in between down that conveyor belt that never happened, and then eventually you just look around and jump off the conveyor belt and stop and watch everybody else going by, and you look back and you go, hey, man, you try to tell people, hey, I've been where you're going. This is not where you think, man. It says, okay, you're trying to go, hey, hang on a second, don't go off half-cocked. But the thing is that there's been such an influx of interest in people, in information that doesn't come from the mainstream as a result of the whole Q operation, people learning about things and consequently going out on the internet and searching for it, which makes the information showing up more in people's searches and this and that. So what it does is it starts this feedback loop. Right, so there's this giant feedback loop, and in the midst of all those things, those shows that go round and round and round, in the midst of that, what happens is other information gets pushed into that circular format and these other chunks get in there, and they just happen to go by you, and you get programmed by that information, just like we get programmed by all this other shit that goes by. It just goes around and around and around. And it keeps us spun out. And it's sort of the confusions that you talk about, the manufactured confusion. This is part of that manufactured confusion, is the alternative media being flooded online by a bunch of, and not even to say it's bad. In other words, it's not to even have to say that the people online are sinister for wanting to go on and talk about this stuff. It's not that. They all want to go talk about it because they learned about it and they want to go do it. But what happens is, as a result of that, the real information that people are trying to get out gets diluted by all this other stuff. Because when you go to look for something about aerosol disbursement, you go type in aerosol disbursement and see what your search results are. Okay, now go type in chemtrails and see what your search results are. Now go talk to somebody about it and tell them chemtrails, have them go find somebody that, didn't have it together when they were talking about it, and all of a sudden, oh, it's crazy. You're crazy. But if you said, hey, man, go search aerosol disbursement, all of a sudden the white papers come up, the plane designs come up, the tank.
The Harvard guy, yeah exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's all a matter of that. So I see you guys want to jump in. Please do. I was just wanted to get that out there. Go ahead.
Well,
I was going to say, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, what we're talking about there is a byproduct of the algorithm directing your attention, right? So the feedback loop's generated by your attention, by your gaze. And so the things you click on are what it tries to reinforce. And so we're talking about a simple AI originally was YouTube, but it became complex and very directed. And then, the social engineers got involved and they wanted to see how much they could direct it. And then the ARG players got involved. They wanted to amplify that by using that as part of their game, right? And so at some point what happened was one used the other as a tool for the profit of one side and for the political or gamification of the other side, and yeah, now we're stuck in the situation where Norbert Wiener had described it in his book on cybernetics, but he didn't think it could actually ever be achieved, and here we are. It's been achieved, and it's extremely effective. I mean, it is.
Because there's no, I mean, how Steve, didn't there used to be this when you're in the proposed reality, and you're just going along believing everything's the way that it is, there's a dividing line between reality and crazy talk. The world news down at remember you going out at the check stand, there's the weekly world news, and there was the National Enquirer. Okay, well, remember when the National Enquirer, there was a moment when the Bush administration was about to take office, and it was prior to that all of a sudden the National Enquirer started to be doing real news. Like all of a sudden they're exposing stuff about Bush's daughter, and they're talking about this and that. And next thing you know, what happened? They got an anthrax attack over at the week, But what I wanted to
Bro, they were right about Princess Di. They were right about Epstein. Like, the Inquirer over the years has dropped a bunch of news on us, and everybody completely discredited them because they're the Bat Boy people. They're the Elvis is working at a Burger King in Davenport, Iowa guys. Well, but yeah, you're absolutely right, man. But George Bush's the year leading up to the election, and then for about the first almost year after, they were just killing it.
They were, and that's the thing is, like, maybe we should look at that for a moment, because maybe those Bat Boy stories and all that other stuff was always just cover, and they were always throwing this real stuff out there, and that other shit was cover the whole time. And because realistically, if you thought that was a crazy magazine, you could get away with putting just about any of the truthful information that we talk about, that Alex Jones talks about, or Bill Cooper talked about, or Mae Brussels talks about, or whatever. Anything that we've ever done in the alternative media, probably, I bet you if you went back and looked at some of them, this is interesting only because I never really thought about it until this moment, until you brought that up about the people that they had talked about other than the Bush girl. But that was supposedly off limits. You weren't supposed to talk about his daughter. So,
right.
And they were actually showing a few pictures and this and that. And so, it got uncomfortable for some people with some anthrax or whatever. But,
that's why before we get off there, because I do want to point out that I recall that the coming out party of, so to speak, of National Enquirer as a respectable news source, and it had to do with the OJ trial. They got these scoops in the OJ trial, and they got the DNA evidence and all this kind of stuff coming out during the OJ trial, and then the Princess Di stuff, and they were the ones who broke all that stuff, and all of a sudden they became somewhat respected. And then by the time it got to Bush, they had a lot more clout. That's why I just want to get that in before we.
Please get it in. What about you, Steve? You got something there? Do you remember anything? Are we shaking your memory about the National Enquirer at all right now? Because I don't remember key moments, but I do remember that all of these stories are like this, what we see in the alternative media today. Like YouTube is the National Enquirer.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. In much the same way that so much of the independent media space does serve as like a dictionary definition limited hangout, where you get some of the right information, enough of it that checks out to where you trust the source, and then either the source, by nature of being who they are, automatically discredits that information, or they use the time that it took to build your trust to then run a brand new narrative on you. A lot like Alex Jones did when he went full Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And just started slurping on that little mushroom like it was an endless supply of snow cone.
Well, yeah, and I'll tell you, the thing about it is, man, it's as clear as the nose on your face. I mean, if you look at it, I'm telling you, and I'm just realizing it now. In the moment, this is happening organically for me, but I'm saying the alternative media is the National Enquirer, man, because like I'm saying, in the National Enquirer, real information was coming out there, just like it is in the alternative media, but it's being obscured by the Bat Boy stories and all this other shit that's been infused into it. There used to be, like I'm saying, there used to be a dividing line, even in the alternative media. Alex Jones used to be like this. Somebody called up, blah, 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 Green Man, and he'd go, blah, blah, I don't talk about Green Man or whatever, blah, blah, and hang up. There was a distinguishing moment. He let David Icke come on the show, but he never let him talk about lizards. You never heard no lizard talk on Alex Jones from David Icke.
Right.
You know, so the thing is, there was a dividing line, and now it seems like the dividing line has now been blurred or even totally removed. So there's really, at this point, it's difficult for a newcomer to this information to discern from what's real and what's fantasy.
Well, and the way that it's so algorithm driven makes it really hard for somebody who's new to the space to come in and not immediately go to whoever has the biggest subscription count. Because if they've got that giant sub count, they must be putting out decent information, right?
Well, also, I mean, the algorithm, Epic Journeyman, if you're looking for the end of the world, okay, and you clock into YouTube, what videos are you gonna see? I mean, what's gonna be in your feed bag? Are they gonna be showing you reasons why you shouldn't think it's the end of the world videos, or are they gonna be showing you more videos of why the world's ending?
It was really bad initially in 2013. It started where it'd give you all kinds of, it'd be nothing but end of the world videos. Like, you know, it was so powerfully weighted to whatever you just looked at the view before. And they and after that they got kind of sneaky about it. And then I remember, and it was about 2015, 16 that every single feed was Tartaria. Yeah, for some reason, you know, it didn't matter what you're looking at. If you looked at something that was considered alternative media, it ended up being that.
Yeah.
You know? And then that got toned down, and they talked about it too. They said, well, we're going to adjust our algorithms, and that's when the censorship came. So after that, they toned it down, but not that much. It's still filter bubbling you, still feedback looping you, but now they just censor your content and what you say. You know, it's ridiculous. It's like the opposite direction. Instead of them filtering what they're going to give you, you know, they're filtering you.
Well, let me throw in one thing here, because we're about to get into this Amazon sidewalk thing. But let me just throw this one thing in here, because it's my perception that what happens is that you can be fully and totally programmed by the videos that you're fed by YouTube. That you can totally shape your perception of anything. And the thing is scientifically, if I know where you're at, in other words, Google's got their thumb up your ass emotionally. They know exactly where you are. If you're upset, if you're happy, if you're, you know, posting all over the place on, you know, if you post more than 7 times a day on Facebook, it's pretty much that you're single. Like married people in relationships, they don't post 7 times a day on Facebook. So if your friend on Facebook posts 7 times a day, you can almost bet they're single. So, I mean, I'm just saying, it's stupid shit like that that gives a distinct temperature of where you're at any given moment, at any given second. And so knowing that, and then knowing the videos that are on YouTube, and knowing the algorithm can place any one of those videos in your direct attention at a given moment, then that puts you in a situation where you're being manipulated with this content directly.
Nudges, right?
Exactly. Go ahead.
Because that was actually the conception. It was conceptualized in the early 70s, maybe the 50s when they thought about it, but it was used in the 70s through like subliminal messages in the grocery stores and the elevator music to go make a run on tomatoes for some reason, you know? And it worked, right? And so these nudges or putting specific kinds of displays out that people would see to nudge them to go try the broccoli or the steak or, you know, whatever. It's not just regular advertising, but they reinforce it with some other thing in the background, noise, you know, colors, things like that. And when YouTube and the internet came along, it enabled them to direct it specifically to people by their view choices, right? Now they have a virtual you that's your avatar that they use to direct these things to. They have, you know, it's not just the sentient world simulation, it's the YouTube simulation, the Google simulation, the Amazon simulation. They have their own versions of you in their database that they market to and try to nudge. And it is a social engineering experiment, absolutely, 100%. For profit, though, right?
Did either of you see Millie Weaver's Shadowgate documentary?
No, I don't like her.
So I saw part of it. It's like 3 parts, right? I think the first part.
She's
whether
or
not you like Millie.
It's not that. Hold on a second. It's not that I don't like her personally, because I don't know her personally, but there's quite a bit about her that's not very reputable. So the thing is after that, then I have a problem hearing anything she has to say, whether it be good or bad. So go ahead.
So the film that she did, Shadowgate, about the Shadow Net, like, I know that she's put out some incredibly partisan bullshit. And the film itself ends up being like a sympathetic Trump piece. It does. Or at least the first couple of parts are, geared to make you feel like Donald Trump is the most successful victim on the planet. But the actual Shadow Net, the fact that there were two whistleblowers that came forward that are the basis of the film and the bulk of the content in it, that are talking about the ability for private contractors to manipulate from a third party end social media, determine exactly what you, down to the individual, but also groups, like if you're in certain Facebook or group chat, group DMs on Twitter, if you were dumb enough to actually like click what your interests were or anything like that, if you post hashtags, follow trends, things like that, you can be targeted to view specific information that's going to trigger you or outrage you or make you sad, and it can change the way that you feel about things.
Yeah.
It can be used not just to change your behavior, but to predict it, to generate a specific outcome. And in this era where we have active pre-crime, where pre-crime is a thing in the Justice Department, where they murdered, the police did, a man named Winston Smith for pre-crime. In this era, like that, the Shadow Net is a very real and very dangerous tool. And in the documentary, at least, one of the private contractors that they show that are instrumental in developing the technology and distributing it, has a lot of familiar names and faces, and is sort of centered around, at least in the film, the McChrystal Group.
Well, you just basically met us, so you don't really know us too well. You probably haven't heard our show or any of the work we've done previous to, maybe being around the last bit of time. But before that video came out that they made, we were talking about this years ago. We were telling people what was going on even before there was any whistleblowers coming out from Google talking about exactly what those guys were talking about. So there wasn't any great revelation that happened in that video, realistically.
Okay, because you were speaking of it in terms of a hypothetical then, and if you came out with the information years ago.
Yeah, no, it's not hypothetical, man. I mean, what we talk about here, on the show, what we talk about shaping people, about shaping civilization, about shaping generations. Just about everything we talk about on this show basically uncovers the tools that are used by the system to make society go in a certain direction, because the ultimate situation is you cannot beat people with sticks all day. You have to figure out a way to make these 7 billion people do what you want them to do. And so the best tool that there is what we have come to know as the media. But see, what happened was there was a big crossover point, Epic Journeyman, in the Silicon Valley, where it went away from just the media that we were used to, magazines, TV, radio. It went away from that, and it started to get into the computer aspect. And when that happened, that is when a lot of the information that we give up started to become very valuable, to the point where now we have Amazon coming out with Amazon Sidewalk, and we've got a device from Amazon called the Halo that I want to talk about, because it's key to talk about this in reference to what we're talking about, Steve, which is the manipulation of people. and how what was talked about in the video that you just brought up, that is like that's a blanket statement. But what we can talk about here is how you can take that blanket statement and individualize it to the point where you can target an individual with that technology and basically, manipulate that person like a puppet.
Yeah.
To the point where you wake up and standing there with a ski mask on and an AR-15 in front of the Walmart, and there's a bunch of dead people laying around and guys are shooting at you. That kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I mean that's a focus in the flick too. It's stuff that people have written about and kind of hinted at for quite a long time. We talked to people on the show who, at least from their perspective, had been subjected to this, had been victims of this, where they had gone in, starting with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, being against that. A number of the key people that were involved in the U.S.-led and the UK-led resistance against the Trans-Pacific Partnership, dead, incarcerated, or still targeted by some form of 3-letter agency or law enforcement.
Well, it's not surprising. But Epic Journeyman.
TPP was bad, man. It was. There's no doubt about that. Like that was written by the people, the corporations and stuff, to basically cause a global oligarchy where they write all the rules. Yeah. And they're the ones that enforce it. It was barren, plain as day, right in everybody's sight. It almost went through. So it was the one thing out of the entire Trump presidency, honestly, I can say give him credit for, because that was a bad thing, and that would have went through. Otherwise, it wouldn't have gone through maybe with Bernie or somebody. But I mean, if Hillary got in there, I didn't vote for either one. I flipped a coin between what's her face, Jill Stein and Gary Johnson. Right? I didn't want any part of either. I didn't want to be responsible of conscience, right? But no, but it's true. TPP, if people don't know, that is absolutely a diabolical plan. I mean, it's straight out of Spectre, man.
Well, the only reason anyone knows about it is because WikiLeaks published files that were obtained extra legally.
So have you seen this thing that Snowden has recently come out talking about don't use wireless? And he's saying that, and they came out with these maps that show your SSID and your also your BB SSID or your unchangeable SSID of your access points. And so the reason I'm bringing it up, not that it's new news or anything, but we keep kind of walk us back here to the to this Amazon situation, because we've been talking about it all week, telling people to opt out, because there's coming a moment where if you didn't opt out, you opt in. And so at that point, data collection begins, right? And so So now that's taken on a whole new meaning, hasn't it, Epic? Because now it has happened. But Bruce McDonald's going to be joining us here in a second.
Oh, cool.
So hang on one second here. Let's do this, and then we'll be right back. Aftermath FM, make it real, not fantasy. So we're getting Bruce McDonald squared away here. It's Aftermath.fm. Steve Quickening from Slow News Day. Steve, tell them where they can find you, bro.
slownewsdayshow.com, rockfin.com/slownewsday. You can also find me on Twitter at slownewsdayshow.
And don't forget,
a lot of really cool stuff coming up too, and I would, at some point, we're gonna have to talk about that.
Well, yeah, at some point we will, but let's not stray too far, because where we are right now, I got some stuff here that ties exactly into it, and Bruce McDonald has joined us from Costa Rica. Bruce McDonald, are you there? I'm hoping he's there. It looks like he's there, but I can't hear him. But anyway, when he gets here, he'll let us know. But anyhow, back to this now. Okay, Amazon. So Bezos, he's about, go ahead, Epic. Let's get started with Bezos. Let's get into Sidewalk, and then let's talk about, I got Halo here, because Halo, it tracks the tone of your voice. That's right. You weren't sounding too interested when your wife came in and said, "Hey, honey, what do you say we go out and clean the garage?" You didn't sound too stoked, Steve. So, but Halo could tell. And the thing is, the reason I'm bringing it up, because it ties exactly what we were saying earlier, which is with the feedback loop, the echo chamber, the insertion of the Bat Boy idea of the National Enquirer, where real information is lumped in with the Bat Boy. So there's really, at the point you can't discern, and now you come along with this total emotional sensor that's on people's wrists.
Yeah, tech wearables, and specifically medical tech wearables, have been talked about now for the last couple of years, by us, and we get called crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy kooks for saying they're going to put a surveillance device on your wrist that will quite literally monitor you down to your cell, and track, not just your pulse or your rate of breath, but what kind of breath you're doing, why you're doing it. It'll be able to monitor your emotional state, and that's exactly what the Halo does. Let me read here from Blacklisted News. Amazon's new AI health bracelet offers body composition analysis, tone of voice analysis, sleep and activity tracking. Presumably, this new tech is another convenient application to bring awareness to users of such things as too much body fat, or if their tone is a bit too abrasive or condescending. Are you kidding me?
No.
Are you kidding me?
No, listen, here. I'm gonna go you one step further. Here you go.
Health isn't just physical. Social well-being is important too. Introducing Amazon Halo. Halo lets you analyze the tone of your voice throughout the day, because sometimes we don't sound the way we think we sound. Like, maybe you thought you sounded affectionate, but actually sounded bored. Maybe in the future you can do a better job complimenting your talents. With Halo, you can make sure what people hear with their ears matches what comes from your heart. Health isn't just physical. Social well-being is important too.
I couldn't resist. No, seriously, man. Come on now, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get a handle on this now, because once it gets out there, that's it. It's in there. In other words, now it's a grandfather program or whatever. It's grandfathered in now. I'm sorry. It was a pilot program, but now it's grandfathered in. So, sorry about that. Sorry about that cancer.
Yeah, we're too late. We're too late getting to it. Now. Yeah.
Sorry about that cancer, but it's grandfathered in. Sorry. But Bruce McDonald from Costa Rica. Oh, you there?
Oh, yeah, man.
I can. Yeah, there you are. I hear you barely. You are there though. He is there.
Barely.
So yeah, we're just getting into this a little bit. So have you heard of the Amazon Halo, Bruce?
Yeah. Funny, I just spent like 3 hours with Amazon today. It's a whole separate story. I'm a vendor on their marketplace in the literary world. Monty finished an audiobook for me, and anyways, if there's a appropriate time in your broadcast, I'll tell you about it. But they're just unbelievable cocksuckers.
Well, we're
Did
about.
I mention I'm a big fan of radio you can swear on? Have I mentioned that one little fucking fact?
No, you have not
I think
mentioned
you
that.
fucking did.
But I'll tell you what, I'm glad you did. But it's perfect that you have a.
Welcome to freedom, Bruce.
It's Bruce. Let me introduce you to Steve. Steve, this is Bruce McDonald, wordsmith, author. He's got a new book coming out. On the 15th with Andrew Bartzis that you helped get involved with. Why don't you talk about that real quick to introduce yourself to Steve, and then I want to continue on with this Amazon thing because I'm about to get the chainsaw out on Amazon. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, hey Steve. I started doing what I call co-writes 2 years ago. I'm on my third now, and this one is with a gentleman who is quite extraordinary. He's an Akashic record reader and a healer. And basically, we told the story of time in 74,000 words, and the history of the Earth, which is about 55 million years, and it's just an incredible story. It's intense and it's very densely written. It's not for everybody. This is not a bestseller. But this is a book they'll be reading at monasteries in the East and the West, pretending they didn't read it and then quote it. And it was a very intense exercise. It turned me upside down. I'm still living with the effects. Information affects us, guys. Information, really, really highly charged information can enact healings inside you, attack demons you didn't even know you had. It can be quite turbulent. And this book was extremely turbulent for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because, information and words in and of themselves can open up these portals. And I think, certain information that has a certain tonal quality may, be able to infect you with, I used to say, hey, man, hasta lasagna, don't get none on you. Because, you go out in the world, man, you come back, you feel like you got a bunch of shit on you. It's like you got all this negative energy, a bunch of little biting, vampires hanging off your back. You come in and try to shake it off, because there's so much, people are so starved for any kind of real energy, and they're running around. No one gets fed. No one gets any real good food from each other. It's mostly just people hunting energy off of each other. And whenever there's somebody that has any, the whole group of people, it's like the whole group of people looks and goes, there he is. And they all come over there and suck your energy out, man. You go home and you're like, oh, you barely make it through the door because, it's like musical chairs of psychic vampires at work every time you step out into the real world. And now you got Amazon Halo, and it's telling us, Bruce, did you hear? You know what? Let me just, you know what? I'm gonna put this on my greatest hits because tonight's Wednesday night. And let me ask you this, Bruce. What the fuck?
Health isn't just physical. Social well-being is important too. Introducing Amazon Halo. Halo lets you analyze the tone of your voice throughout the day, because sometimes we don't sound the way we think we sound. Like, maybe you thought you sounded affectionate, but actually sounded bored. Maybe in the future you can do a better job complimenting your talents.
All right, let me just stop right there, man. How many times, it's all men in here, okay? It's all men. All right, listen. How many times have you gotten in an argument with your significant other or in a fight because you sounded wrong when you said something, but you didn't mean anything by it, but they made it mean something because you sounded a certain way and you got accused of something and something happened, and then the next thing you know, you were sounding a certain way, and then you were saying that shit, and then,
you end up sounding that way.
Exactly.
Okay, but then I have an ex who has a very, very angry tone.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows it. And everybody will lie their ass off anytime it gets pointed out. No,
because
they
don't
want her
wrath
to unleash that. They don't ever want to be on the receiving end of that tone.
Exactly.
And so
So
I'm
this
not the
concept.
one-
So this
I'm not the one.
this-
I'm not the one to just sit there and lie to you that you do not sound like you're ready to.
Well, see, this is
rip my
important.
throat out.
This is important. This is an important organic moment too, because this is exactly what I'm trying to point out about this technology here. You see, this technology here knows exactly when you're in that moment there, when that happens to you in your relationship with somebody. The emotional shit is all being recorded, man. You're giving them information with this bracelet on, okay, to the point where they could literally go to your roommate and feed your roommate in the feed bag on Facebook certain stuff and get your roommate to say something to you that the emotional sensor knows will trigger you to the point where you'll now get in an argument with your significant other and put yourself on tilt and all this other shit. What do you guys think about that?
I would like to pose to the audience that for significantly less than the cost of an Amazon Halo, I will tell you when you sound like a bitch.
Nice, nice. You know, I mean, so what we're talking about Amazon Sidewalk launching today, that's why it's relevant, is because, well, it launched yesterday, actually. And if you didn't opt out already, guess what, folks? You can't. You can't opt out. That's it. It's already up. It's running, right? And so it's this network of everything related to Amazon. Now, they say specifically is Amazon Echo and Ring devices, but what they fail to mention it deliberately is it's also linked to Alexa and Kindle and to these Halos. And the reason it does that is those things all link through Alexa to everything else. That's like the brains behind them. So if you have an Echo, it's going to link to your Alexa automatically, right? If you have a Halo, it's going to link to your Alexa, and the repeater, the thing that extends your range, with these Echo devices or these Ring devices. So Amazon Sidewalk seamlessly links all this stuff together through if your internet goes down, no worries. It just uses your neighbor's internet. So and that's what it does. It gives 500 megabytes. It supposedly caps it at that of your information. Everybody's information though. Everybody's internet connection that it can use.
I got an abstract piece of chunk right here. Fact. Okay, listen. Smart meters. All right, put them here. They belong here because you need to know about this. Everybody needs to know about this. Okay, listen. So I was doing some my company. I did network troubleshooting, whatever. So San Jose State called me. Sorority house was having problems with their wireless, so I had to go down there and see what was going on down there. So I went down to the sorority house. They were indeed having problems, and the first thing I ask when I go there is, well, has anything, have you had any work done? Is anything, blah, blah, blah. And they go, oh, yeah, well, they were here installing the smart meter. So I go, okay, smart meter. So I go, and then I go outside, see the smart meters there, and I go, okay, well, now because I'm a licensed contractor, so now I can call PG&E as a contractor and ask them questions about da-da-da-da. And I don't want to get too much into it, and I can't give you the direct and exact frequencies because that would be against the law for me to say, because I'm not allowed to reveal somebody's frequencies to you. But what I can say is it's in a range, okay? So let's just say it's in the 900 megahertz range, transmitting at a pretty high rate. And I shouldn't even tell you because it'd probably scare you. But anyway, point is that guess what Amazon was saying? They were saying there's some 900 megahertz network that they were going to be transmitting information over, and that's what I've been saying about these smart meters is they're concentric circles, and every time they add one, the footprint expands. And this is like a mini cell network that's been created, and they're going to be transmitting all the data from anything having to do with power in your house. So your refrigerators, your washing machines, your thermostats, all that's going to go back to PG&E or whatever your power company is over these smart meter wireless networks. But now it looks like as though they're also going to be piggybacking. It looks like, Amazon looks like they maybe piggyback onto some of this because that 900 megahertz is going to be there even if your power does go out, even if there is a disaster. That 900 megahertz is going to be there. It's going to be a network. Believe me, those meters don't go off, right? When the power goes out.
The thing that's interesting about this is Energy Star compliant devices. So your microwave, your oven, your coffee pot, your toaster.
Right.
All these things, Energy Star compliant. Well, they're linked to that. So that's the other part about this. So if you want to control your house, you want to have a smart house. Basically, you want to use your wireless access key to indicate in your house. You want to turn the lighting on and stuff like that. Use your Amazon Echo and devices, all these things like that. Well, they all, if you read the fine print, they all link to this network, right? So Sidewalk is just new. It's like an extension of that. So, but the Energy Star compliant devices, they were already there. So the smart meters you're talking about, they can piggyback too. So all these backup systems that are there in place to make sure that the network stays up. You know what I mean? It's all linked. These ad hoc networks all linked together, extend the cellular coverage essentially. But it's not really cellular, but in a way it is, right? To extend that coverage. And sure, it may only be, they say, 80 kilobytes per second, right? But that's still better than 56K. It's almost double, and it's there all the time. So even if you don't have any internet, you turn the internet off your house, you turn everything off, right? That 900 megahertz band is powerful enough to go through your walls, and it does, right? And that's the whole thing. You're like that movie Eraser where they look in the house, right? I mean, it's exactly that kind of scan ability. And then and you're walking by with your halo on, and it knows how fast you're breathing, what your heartbeat is, what you're talking about, what your mood is. And if it wants to, I'm saying if it wants to, but if somebody wants to trigger you, they know your trigger words, right? They know your trigger things, right? That'll make you, react. And it's going to be right there. So if you have the shooter that's going to shoot Walmart in 15 minutes, right? You've been working on for 6 months to do it, and he turns off all his devices, right? It has his rifles in the truck ready to go still. They're not going to lose track of them. I'm not saying that's what they do. I'm just saying it's the worst kind of example for like a movie plot, right? But it's true, though, is my point. This is true. They're really doing that.
Well, yeah,
it's not
true.
Some science fiction thing.
No, it's not science fiction, ladies and gentlemen. The time is now, and cognitive liberty is the issue. And listen, I mean, honestly, I don't think there's a more important issue on the face of this earth than cognitive liberty, but, it doesn't seem to be one that's very sexy or one that people want to talk about. And that's because, and I'm saying, I was joking before, it's grandfathered in, man. It's, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be, the behavior modification complex is going to be behavior modification complex is going to be grandfathered in. Hey, man, it's just part of how you are. It's just how you're programmed from the time you're born. THX 1138, they all buy that thing, and, the whole reason they exist is to consume.
Just to throw it away.
Is to consume, right? But the energy's put in to buy it, and then they throw it away. Exactly. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we're we exist to consume, and we consume to exist. At the point like where Bruce is over in Costa Rica, he only consumes what he needs. Yeah, he doesn't need more than he needs, right, Bruce? I mean, so isn't this endless consumption in the West is not the main issue? Is that the main engine that keeps all this bullshit up and running? Because like where you are, like I'm saying, you eat what you need, you have what but you don't seek more than you can handle. You know what I mean? You have what you've got, and that's it. You don't need more. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, no worries, man. Great segue into a conversation here. We'll swing back to Amazon in a sec, but yeah, so. For Steve, who hasn't heard the story, I left Canada about 7 years ago, and I came to Costa Rica. And then I just rented places for a couple of years. I was working remotely. I'm a technical writer in software and telecommunication. And then after I got bored of all the beach towns and everything, and all the places that the tourists go, I started to look for a place to settle, and I found this extraordinary place up in the mountains in the south of Costa Rica. And I just live with campesinos, which is Spanish for peasants, so people who do sustenance living off their land, and Quebecar natives, and like real natives, not North American natives with the ranch bungalow, satellite TV, and the Ford F-150 in the driveway, like real natives. And, I've never been happier. And my biggest realization that I share with people is you simply can't understand how important time is until you get off the treadmill, right?
Yeah.
And time is absolutely critical, right? Because the amount of work you have to do to cover your monthly nut just to get by in North America or Australia or Western Europe is astounding. You're basically a slave to just your rent. The older and more expensive the city is, the worse it is. So, London's really bad, one of the worst. It's got the highest percentage of people who rent their whole lives. Now, as North Americans, our retirement is selling our homes, right? Imagine living in a city where you never have that. So, but I'll tell you this too, if you don't know who you are and what you want to do, if you don't have something constructive to do with time, so I'm a writer, I use my time constructively. If you don't have that, solitude and time will undo you. Your demons will consume you, right? And so it goes either there's guys on this mountain, really, really spiritually advanced and peaceful people, and there's other guys that are just drug addicts and alcoholics. And it's like nature amplifies everything. You'd think the worst it could get is maybe Skid Row in Los Angeles. You should see a crack house cabin in a jungle in the jungle of Costa Rica. You never seen anything like it. The debauchery and decadence they get up to. So it's this time thing, right? And that's what they rob you of. And you need time to understand who you are, to heal, to all these things. And you never really get it in the West. And if somebody's offering it, they're selling it for outrageous prices, right? You know, a week-long getaway, a spiritual retreat, $15,000 will transform your life. Better work hard to save that 15 grand, right? The solution to everything is to just simplify your life. So I came over here, Steve, a vegetarian, full vegetarian for 10 years. I'd say vegan, but I occasionally ate cheese, but like 90% vegan. I can now harvest and butcher any mid-size animal, a lamb, a goat, a pig.
Yeah.
And people are horrified when I say this, and I say, do you eat meat? Yeah. Well, you should see how it's done at the corporate plants. If you think what I'm doing is horrible, I take the animal out of the pen. I spend 30 minutes with it. I give it a lot of love. Put some apples in front of it. It never sees it coming. It's over in like 5 seconds between a sledgehammer and a knife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the animal has a good life if I raise it, a real good life actually, and it makes it more. An emotional bond forms. Like you come to the understanding, and the animal knows. I know it sounds wacky to people, you know. Oh, white man gone native talking shit on the radio. Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
They know, Steve. They know when their times come. And if you've raised them right and they love you, they voluntarily go. It's like a spiritual bump up for them in the creation ladder.
But you're not overstuffing your face with some animal that you raise like that. It's like you know what I mean? It's like it's not. You're sparingly taking the animals to eat only when you need them, and it's not just like you're butchering a bunch of so you could have steaks in the freezer. Or whatever, you know what I mean?
No.
That's what I mean is that this consumption, this consuming rat wheel that Western civilization's been put upon to go ahead and consume in order to fund everything that's going on. You know what I mean? And that's the difference between what you're doing over there is that you're not on this endless tread to have more and more and more and more than you need, more you got to store it. Yeah, I mean, there's not enough room at your house. You need more, even more than that. You got to store it. You know, and you see these people that have eating disorders, and they're always hungry and they're never satisfied, no matter how much food they eat. They never can fill the void. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's the food they're eating and the chemicals they put into it. They stimulate appetite so you overeat, like the Wonder Bread and all that kind of stuff, right? So when we harvest, let's say we harvest a pig at 100 kilograms. Sorry to speak metric, but I'm Canadian. That's about 220 pounds to make it easy for you. Is it 220 or 240? Epic, help me out here. What's the metric?
No, it's 220.
Yeah, 220 up there. Yeah, 360 face to face. Yep. And then, won't get all on that. But yeah, exactly.
we get together in a small group, and there's a lot of work to harvesting an animal, depending on the animal. And then my neighbors come and they help harvest, and women come, and a lot of water needs to be boiled. You got to get the first layer of skin off the pig because it's got the hair on it. And then the whole thing gets divvied up, right? And the guy who raised it, in my case, I sell the pork to my neighbors for what's a wholesale price. And my pigs are raised exclusively on veterinarian cereal, like grains. And we have about 5 hectares, 12 acres of bananas in my family, a small banana plantation up here. So it's pretty much free to raise the pigs, except the work of going in and getting the bananas. And an arm of bananas is heavy, man. They can be 100 pounds. Bananas are heavy if you're cutting them right off the plant, right? You got to walk 2 kilometers with like 80 pounds of bananas on your back to feed the pigs. And we divvy it up. And then other people come up here, right? Like government people and NGOs. And they all, from San Jose, the big city over here, 3 hours away. And they all have this pitiful look on their face, like they feel sorry for these people. And I'm thinking to myself, you stupid motherfucker, these people live better than you. They have better, cleaner food. Everybody up here is balanced and even. And the myth of poverty is just that. I'm sure there's places you can find it, but the worst poverty is urban poverty, like the favelas of Brazil and stuff like that, because you don't have the redemption of nature, the balancing aspect of nature, and you don't have the ability to grow your own food. So if you slip into urban poverty, that's the worst poverty on the planet.
And
rural.
What we were talking about earlier was when a food source becomes available, okay, an ecosystem develops around it. So in other words, we have homeless people in America, homeless people everywhere, homeless people all over the world. Why are they there? They would not be there if there was not a food source. Okay, if there was no food source, there'd be skeletons laying all over the place, because they'd be starved to death. So there's this parasitic. I mean, there's a food source in our garbage that people live off of, and they don't have a problem living like that. I mean, if you look at some of the pictures of the other countries like Pakistan and India, where people are digging in the trash, and they have beautiful smiles on their faces, and they're sitting there like, it's like it's no big deal. So I mean, perception is everything, right?
Yeah.
So
when Bruce was talking about the inability now to use a home as a way to build equity or build generational wealth, pass it down to your children or your grandchildren, just on the show tonight, we went through an extensively sourced thread with most of the supporting articles behind paywalls, but all about how BlackRock Capital has been scooping up single-family homes all over, not just the U.S., but the top 3 investment firms have been buying up single-family homes to the point to where they can buy a little bit over $500 million a year if all they have to put down is 5 to 20%.
Hey, Bruce. Hey, you know what's funny, Steve? Is we did a whole thing on this about a month and a half ago.
Yeah, we did a couple of years back.
Right, because this is important, Steve, because the reason I'm saying is that we need to keep bringing this up, because people don't understand what's happening. Is that, look at the new infrastructure bill from Biden. Okay, in there, they're zoning out single-family homes. They want to build multifamily dwellings, and these capitalists are coming in, buying up at them 100 at a time. They're not even looking at them, because they're going to turn them into rentals, because you'll own nothing and love it, because that's the way it's going to be. It's not that you won't be able to own a house. You'll be free to buy a house, Steve. You just won't be able to afford one, because the only ones that'll be left will be so high priced that there's no way that an average person could ever afford to live there.
Well, and these investment funds are paying 20 to 50% over asking price.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Because what they did in Texas was there was a major home builder that builds tract homes. He built a whole tract, but it was never intended to be sold as single family homes. It was always going to be a rental. They rented every home. They got it up and running. They took in the rents. Then they put the whole thing up as a unit for sale. There was a bidding war, and it ended up being a $30 million sale where they made a 50% profit margin, as opposed to the normal 13% where they got to sit there and put blue carpet in there and green granite over there and go through all these changes. When it's a rental, it doesn't matter what it is, what next door has and what you have. So they proved it out. It started back when the 2007 crash happened. That's when they started.
I was trying to explain that earlier on the show. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Sorry.
well, there you no. I mean, let's expand on it, because this is when they figured this whole operation out about buying up these homes. Is when that particular thing happened. Is when this idea started to come into play and started to vaporize. As soon as people looked at it, it went away. But now here it is again. Go ahead, Steve. What about 2007?
Well, no, it was just as the same people that were largely responsible for the market crash immediately pounced on the fact that there were now suddenly available millions of homes, especially when that was a little bit later. So in 07 and 08, what got the U.S. companies in a panic and on board quick was that the first round of buyers in that vein were all Chinese. Well, massive buy-in from very, very wealthy Chinese investment funds and individual investors that were buying, whole ass apart, like whole ass subdivisions at a time, and buying those en masse. And so firms like BlackRock started to panic and then started pumping a bunch of capital into it. And over the last decade now, they've been doing this again at a clip to where it's nearly $500 million a year. Do you think, Jimmy or Bruce or Epic Journeyman, that Austin is going to be ground zero for this Great Reset experiment, and the idea that you will own nothing and like it, and there's going to be a permanent owner class, is being purported on the American public unwillingly, because the figurehead of it, my friends, is Joe Rogan, working for Peter Thiel on behalf of those oligarchs to trap America's premier comedians to Austin so that everybody else will want to come there because they think it's somehow going to be cool now that Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon live there, and everyone is going to wind up in shitty rentals for the rest of their life generationally, because Joe Rogan secretly Pied Pipered everyone into a horrific transhumanist future.
Don't lose.
They have the owl. They have the owl in Austin, right? The owl building.
Hilarious.
With the fountain, they do.
Don't lose that thought. It's in the microcosm. Steve Koinen of Slow News Day, Bruce McDonald, the Wordsmith, Epic Journeyman, Subdivisions. It's Aftermath.fm. We'll be back in a minute or two. Go get yourself something to drink. Looks like there may be some rough waters ahead, ladies and gentlemen. cool or be cast out. Subdivisions. Aftermath.fm. My name's Jimmy. It's midnight, 12:01 on the West Coast, the best coast. If you don't like it, get the fuck out. You know, I saw a sign that said, "Welcome to California. Now go home." Listen, if you don't like it, like I said, get the fuck out. Listen, Bruce, I'm throwing you down a Canadian rocker mini concert, and let me just say this: this dude has got to be the whitest man on the face of the earth. Can you guess who it is?
Edgar Winter.
Bryan Adams.
Driving home this evening, could have sworn we had it all worked out.
It's Aftermath FM.
You had this boy believing way beyond the shadow of a doubt. Yeah. Well, I heard it on the street. I heard you might have found somebody new. Yeah. Well, who is he, baby? Who is he, and tell me what he means to you? Oh yeah. Took it all for granted, but how was I to know that you'd be letting go?
Bryan Adams, man. Tell you what, man, that dude better use some sunblock if he ever goes to the beach. You know, there was a comedian back in the day, and he did a whole bit on Canadian rocker Bryan Adams being so white. And all through his routine, Bruce, all of a sudden he just say something like, Canadian rocker Bryan Adams. Call back. Canadian rocker Bryan Adams from 30 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, a comedy show I saw one night. The whitest man in the world, Bruce McDonald. There's a white guy.
He gets so much flack, man. He does.
He
I
gets
don't know why.
flack.
He doesn't deserve it, I don't think.
I know. Well, listen, so we're sitting here with Steve, Slow News Day, Bruce McDonald. Bruce, your books can be found on Amazon. Is that correct? Or do you have your own separate website where your books are available and you get 100?
Donald, not Nick Donald.
Nah, yeah, I know it's MacDonald. But did I say McDonald?
No, but I mean, the listeners, the whole human race has been entrained by that goddamn hamburger company.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you know that every golden arch is facing the rising sun? So the sun rises over every golden arch.
Hey,
I did know that.
Bruce,
You know how I knew that?
How'd you know that? Hold on, Steve. How'd you know that, Bruce?
You told me, Jimmy, a few months ago.
Oh, did I? It was a repeat?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, man. Sorry about that, Chief.
When I typed your name into the group chat to post about this, Bruce, I spelled it correctly. I didn't even know, but I assume, based on the way that you spoke, that you were a Mac Donald.
Thank you.
Because I'm not a fucking plebeian. Bruce.
And
thanks.
And have you been to the Tabor Toss in Boulder Creek, Steve?
Oh, the Scottish games.
Yes.
The Highland games. That's in Highland Park and Ben Lomond.
Yeah, Ben
It's on
Lomond.
Boulder Creek.
Yeah, Ben Lomond, exactly.
Yeah.
Have you been there?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, man. See, now Bruce, if Bruce was in town, he'd want to go to that. You definitely want to go to that. That is a
Caber.
Yeah, man.
For sure.
Yeah, so what we're talking about is Amazon, and Amazon is like a Tabor toss because they're about to toss the Tabor up into space, aren't they? Aren't they, Epic Journeyman? What are they going to do with this?
Are.
Now, listen, you were telling me before the show. Now, Steve and Bruce, get ready to put your glasses on, your sunglasses, and sip off your drink because we're about to go to Speculation Island because Epic Journeyman is about to go wild out with a wild hair up his ass. Because go ahead, Epic Journeyman. I'm not gonna, I don't want to build it up.
It occurred to me that it rapidly, because of his incredible wealth acceleration during the pandemic and all these other things, that Jeff Bezos is becoming the most hated man on earth. Right, he already looks like Blofeld. He's got the bald head and all that stuff going. He's totally Dr. Evil at this point, and he has this Blue Origin program with his spaceships that look like a giant penis. I mean, like straight out of Flesh Gordon, if you recall, a 1970s semi-X-rated, non-rated movie. It's a comedy, but it absolutely spaceships like a phallic spaceship.
That's exactly what it looks from a Blockbuster.
Oh, you stole Flesh Gordon? You're the one.
I was like 13.
Oh yeah, well, I'm telling you what, it was really popular on the submarine. Was back on subs. We didn't have porno, but we had the 60mm movies, and so we got that. Summer Lovers, and there's a movie with what's her name, Jamie Lee Curtis, called Love Letters. So he always tried to rush down to the compound to get those movies before the deployment somebody else did.
Come back out of the weeds, Epic Journey.
Oh, no, there's a method in my madness. Right. It goes back to the phallic spaceship. But let me tell you this. So it got me thinking about Jeff Bezos needs to pull an Elvis, man. He needs to pull a Doors move. He needs to basically make exit stage left on this, right? Like, he's already got his billions and billions, trillions, whatever it's going to be. Why put up with the bullshit anymore from the public that hates him, right? He's got his $500 million yacht being built. It's going to go up in space with his brother. Ironically, there's like half the family or the surviving family going up there, and some guy paid $4 million in an auction to go up there. And it's like the perfect scenario for, Jeff went up doing what he loved. He tried to orbit the Earth and the ship went up. I'm not saying that event's going to make it happen. But something like that, he's gonna exit stage left. He is going to fake his own death. I guarantee you.
Can I suggest a way for Jeff Bezos to make this even better? Publicly announce that despite years of perceived tension, you in fact want to clear the air, say Elon Musk, I love you, my brother, as a sign of my affection. My brother and I are going to take our outer space journey in a SpaceX rocket.
It's their maiden voyage, right, for civilian spaceflight. That's the thing, like to actually go into.
But I'm going somewhere with this because the odds of surviving a flight in a SpaceX rocket
are way better. They're way better.
Way worse. Those SpaceX rockets blow up like 3 out of every 4 times there's a launch. Well, no, SpaceX rockets are Elon Musk and the rest of the oligarchs' dead hooker disposal. Elaborate method disposal of dead hookers. The SpaceX program.
Did you ever watch the show about that bar at the rally, the Harley rally, where they buy insurance when it's gonna rain? And check this out, man. How much you bet? I'll bet you every single rocket that goes up, there's insurance that says, well, if the rocket doesn't exactly go up, we get paid. So, I mean, how many rockets that don't go up that you get paid? Then you buy a bunch to see all the money you make off the rockets that don't actually go up. That actually funds your operation to get a rocket to actually go up at some point. So you can bet at some point that whole thing is going to change. The curve is going to look different, Bruce, isn't it? So I mean, why are they such a hurry to get off the planet? That's the thing, man. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I'm into Bezos faking his own death, though.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't it make sense though?
I'm with it though.
He's down in New Zealand.
Makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
It does. It makes sense, just like every other thing made sense. Just like Saddam Hussein, just like every single other person, man. That you're written out of the script. Hey, contract's up, son. Hey, you were the richest man in the world, came up with some weird idea to ship stuff to people and became the richest dude in the world. Now you built the infrastructure, GTFO, buddy, because the government's taken over your operation and with a quickness. Because think about it, from a logistical standpoint, at this point, Amazon has reached a level of logistics that's, unprecedented, to where you could call, ask for something, and it'll be at your house in an hour. And how do they know that, Epic Journeyman? How does Amazon know what you may or may not buy, and how can they keep that piece in that warehouse sitting right over there, just real within 50 miles of you?
They got your profile, and then Amazon Sidewalk knows your urges, because if you, especially if you're wearing one of those Ring or Halo devices or something, but just by the nature of the things it can read without that, right? Just the data that it accumulates, it can predict the future. I say they. I mean, we talk about different scientific institutions talk about Century World Simulation, so they can predict the future a minute and a half basically ahead of time, like with confidence. I mean, confidence, right? But and then it goes down from there. But the bottom line is how much does it degrade over time, right? If it's a minute and a half or whatever the last one I read was, then it's a no within a day with like 70% confidence or 90% confidence. No, in 2 days within 60. I mean, yeah, it's already prepped. And what I wanted to bring up to the crowd, the people who are listening right now, is this Amazon Sidewalk went live yesterday. And what's going to happen is I want everybody to pay attention. You're going to start getting more targeted ads. You're going to start having more synchronicities. We're going to think they're synchronicities. They're not synchronicities. They're designed that way. You're just going to recognize it because these things are being targeted to you, right? They're being delivered to you. But also Apple today, like coincidence, I think not, announced that you'll never lose your data again. You'll have all your data accessible all the time, no matter where you are on Earth, right? All it takes is an Apple device. In other words, they're doing the same thing with Apple now, right?
Facebook is developing a wearable. And they want the watch to be able to pop off, fit onto a backpack or a hat, something, and it's got 2 cameras, the watch does. It also has a heart rate monitor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite the Halo where it can tell how you feel by tone, but what it can do is connect you to all of your Facebook apps.
Well,
so that you can at your wrist be programmed, and they want it to connect to the Oculus VR.
Well, and you didn't know it, but Bezos had a conversation with Zuck, and he said, "Hey, look, man, I'll tell you what. I've already written the bridge for it to tie into your device. I'll tell you what. I'll just give you my Amazon data, there if you give me your Facebook data, and we just won't tell anybody." Okay, so your bracelet is talking to Facebook anyway, even though you don't realize it. They set up contracts beyond the dome there where you can't see it, and you never even know about it. It's just like the chips in your TV are in there. Hey, bud, let me. I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna offset your cost, Steve, of your TV that you're building over there. If you just let me put my chip on that board right there, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna redesign the board. Here's the design. Okay, I'm gonna offset 50% of your costs on these TVs, so that means you're gonna make 50% more profit, whatever that profit margin is. So why wouldn't you do it? You don't care. But meanwhile, every time you move in front of your smart TV, it's sensing you're moving. You moved.
They did it in 1992, V-chip, yeah.
That's right. You moved, Steve. Hey, you got 3 people sitting on the couch, Steve. Hey, Steve, you're supposed to be somewhere. Alexa heard you. But you're at your house in front of your smart TV with 2 other people, and now it's being sent back through your refrigerator onto the 900 megahertz because the refrigerator's got a powerful antenna in it, and it picks it up and then it relays it. It's a repeater, and it's repeating these dull signals, making them strong enough to be broadcast back over that 900 megahertz concentric circle network that's been built on the side of your house with the smart meters.
Not my house, but yeah.
Go ahead. Bruce McDonald's sitting over there. Are you ready to? Do you want to say something on this here, Bruce McDonald?
No, I'm good. I got to drop for a minute and come back. I got 2% left on this phone.
I know.
I got another back.
And it's key because your internet went out last night for 12 hours, right? So.
We're going to talk about that. Yeah.
We're going to talk about that. So while you do that, we're going to talk about.
I'll be back.
Okay, we'll see you soon. So Epic Journeyman, bring this up now because I wanted to make sure we brought it up on the show. Now there was an internet outage last night, wasn't there?
There sure was. A big chunk of the internet went out for a lot of people, depending where you were and what apps you used. It went out for, globally. It wasn't just an isolated thing like it usually is. Like maybe it's like one section of the country or one country or whatever. And in this case, it's happened before this way, but particular websites, and it was people who use this service as their internet service called Fastly, which is a content delivery network. And the claim was like, oh, it's just random. It just happened. We downloaded an update and it didn't take, and the network went down and we had to reset our servers and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, everybody's out because the people who also use that network were people like Google and Amazon and stuff in the past that did that. But in this case, it was a number of really popular things that went down. But the bottom line is like Twitter went down for the people who use that. If you're in the right part of the world that use that. So along a lot of other services and apps. And it's like the fourth time they've had a major drop like that where it affected the world, right? Essentially, if they were on one of these server-based, it happened to be the service that you use for your servers, it affected everybody in the world on that, right? That's something people should be concerned about, right? Because it's an opportunity to say in the future, well, see, we can't have these kind of network servers like this Fastly or the ones that Google and Amazon had their problems with in the past, because we got to make sure it's backed up. There's too many people depending on commerce, because of commerce and government contracts and health care services and things like that depend on that. You know what? Elon Musk has it right with Starlink. At least we need everybody at least link to that. It'll always be backed up. It's never going to go away. We'll always be on the internet with that, right? And so, yeah, sure enough, everybody's got it for free. And the high bandwidth users, they won't get as much bandwidth, but it'll always be there for them. And that's why we need to, what we need to do? We need to reinforce that network and go that way to make it robust. So there's nothing like this can happen and just take a bunch of people down. But yeah, it was 15 minutes this morning, and it was global failure for a lot of people. So, and it's not, like I said, it's not the first time. Coincidentally, though, Amazon Sidewalk launched when this happened. And I have to think that played a role. I do think that played a role because all that bandwidth went online right when this went down.
Get out of here.
It's true, man. It did.
That's too much. Mom's Jimmy. It's in the microcosm, mouth.fm. Place to be. Tune in, turn on, find out. Right here, right now. Like they say, I might not be Mr. Right, but I'm definitely Mr. Right Now. And right now, Steve Coinen's here. Bruce MacDonald is over there. He'll be back. He's charging his battery. Epic Journeyman's here. And now you're going to be here. 626-999-4761.
Get on the phone.
626-999-4761. And I'm going to play a little bit of music. Some elevator music. As we go up a level, we're going to go to floor number 13 and we're going to get out. Okay, there is no button for floor 13. You just have to will the elevator to stop in between floor 12 and floor 14. Mom's Jimmy. Mom's Jimmy. It's Aftermath.fm. Six 999-4761. Aftermath FM. 626-999-4761. 626-999-4761. Give us a call, 626-999-4761. Aftermath.fm chat room. What's happening, man? Ace is over there. Austin Lawrence, what's going on, Austin? Is that going to be the capital of the Joe Rogan experience? Brent.
The Great Reset Slave Empire brought to you by Joe Rogan.
Brent Howell, Chadrick.
Shroom Tech.
Yeah, what's up, Chadrick?
The Kazakhstan of America, right? Is Austin. They got that owl building overlooking
America.
Chris from
I'm stealing that one.
Chris from the UK. What's up, Christy? Good to see you. I solo hater. Rossi, what's up, man? What's that? HN Fitness is in there. It's a good there's a advertisement for you, HN Fitness. Look them up on the internet. Jews in there. Mazel tov. JF or Jay Fredrickson. What's up, Jay? JTFU 101. I'm sure that means something. I don't know what, but it does. KCB 1968. Masker Moody's in there. Megan's in there. Mike Montalban's in there. Fine Quilinte Lela. Mike 7171. Milk Toast. What's up, Milk Toast? Hey, speaking of Milk Toast, Canadian rocker Brian Adams, callback. See that? Bam! See how that shit works? Mojo. What's up, Mr. Mojo? Let me see. Mrs. Ranmack. Maud. Dib. Nano 672. Nod Skull. Nod Skull. Pilot J. Racer. 4721. Robot Fish. Sweeney. What's up, Sweeney? T-Bowed. Way Cool Snoopy. And that's as far down as my little situation will take us. But you know, ladies and gentlemen, there's still another chat room, and we can't leave them out. We can't leave them out simply because they're always there, and they never fail. Mountain Devil, Mojo Palms, Bernaise Sauce, Echo. What's up, Epic Journeyman? John Nelson, Smurfer Girls over there. What's up, Smurfer Girl? Who else is there? One Crazy Ray's there. I saw Ben Tahoe OG, and let me just say, Tahoe OG is some fine strains.
Shout out to Ben.
What's up, Ben? So let's see who else is here. I gotta scroll way back, man. How far am I going back? Way back. There's Wanda.
Is who smoking marijuana again? Mojo Palms?
Could be. He's over in the islands, man. He comes over here and busts my balls. And I said, look, dude, we know you got an estate. Why don't you just invite us over there? Let us come kick it, He never says anything after that, so I know I'm hitting a nerve. He does have an estate, and he won't let us come over there.
In my dream of laughter, you came creeping with your fears.
It's a strange way to tell us you love us, Mojo. Lance. We know who you are, boy. Don't play games, son.
That's a strange way to tell me you love me, when your sorrow is all I can see. If you just wanna cry.
See, nobody can bust the balls like old Jimmy there, Mojo. So, let's keep everything fresh and on the up and up. 626-999-4761. Give us a call, Mojo. Let us know. Do you have an estate on the island, or are you living fat off the hog? High off the hog. Bruce McDonald lives high off the hog. Did you know why they...
Literally.
I know, that's what I mean. Do you know why they call it... Bruce, tell us why it's called living high off the hog. Do you know why?
Oh, I don't know the etymology of that expression.
Well, it's because the people down in the workers, they got the guts. Okay, the house, the people that lived in the house, they live high on the hog, and then everybody else, they get the guts and all the other stuff that other people don't want to eat.
The sausage,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Tripe. Tripe, Jimmy. Tripe. Don't be vulgar.
Tripe. I'm sorry to be so trite about the tripe.
Yeah.
So yeah. What do you think, though? Seriously though, now, here we are. We're in the Amazon generation, and Amazon recently. Do you know they actually said that they don't mind if you smoke a little bit of weed. They're not going to test for it anymore because they must be hurting for workers so bad that they can't get workers to. First of all, they can't get workers to show up anymore because everybody's paying shit. So now the workers, we were talking about this earlier. I'm going to bring it up again because I think it's funny, because workers have now gotten some respect for themselves. And they're like going, man, I'm not coming back to that $7.50 an hour job, man. If you want me to come back, you better start paying me a decent wage or else I ain't coming back. And now all of a sudden, there's a big glut, and there's nothing that anyone's going to be able to do about it except for offer people more money to come back to work. That's the only thing that's going to happen. Otherwise, we are going to be on universal income. You can believe that. That's what I think. What do you guys think about that? What do you think about that?
I go back to what I said about time management. If you have destructive habits, and a forced schedule is actually beneficial for you because you're not destroying yourself. This is like induced suicide or induced euthanasia. This is what this guaranteed monthly income is going to be. People do not realize how damaging time can be if you don't use it correctly, right? And most people now, we're how many generations now into the Industrial Revolution, where we're completely entrained to this, punch clock work schedule. It's 3 generations. I'd say the Industrial Revolution took us off the farms, right?
Yeah.
So
we're also a generation into the service-based economy.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm in a unique position to have witnessed all this stuff because starting off as like an engineering guy, coming out of submarines and all that stuff in the defense industry originally, and watching that crash, right? It happened to become in the trades, become an electrician, and then get back in the defense industry again, then get into robotics, right? And so I'm in a position to say that we are obsolete. We are absolutely obsolete. This entire system is obsolete. There is no reason for anybody to be out there working. Period. The way that menial labor is, there's no reason for that. Sure, there's some things that require somebody to go out in the field and pick the right berries. That's always going to be that way. You know what I mean? There's going to be machines that can do it maybe at some point, but we're not quite there yet. But other than that, like the assembly line kind of work, industrial revolution kind of work, we're talking about working in factories, that entire manufacturing industry is completely able to be done with automation, 100%. And in fact, if you're working at a company right now, let's say you're working at Lockheed Martin, they'll tell you right now, or General Atomics or whatever, that they have this thing called Lean Six Sigma. And Lean Six Sigma is this program that they have. People earn belts, green belt, black belt, all this stuff, right? To make it more efficient in the workplace, minimize the steps to a certain thing and all that kind of stuff to make it more profitable in the end. And all that is telling the AI the program is going to be in the, what it needs to replace you. Right? In the end game of that is it just replaces you. So if you get a black belt, good for you. Just bring yourself out of a job because now the program's complete. They can put the automation in place to replace the personnel that were the workers before. So those jobs go away. Manufacturing jobs are a thing of the past for individuals. There's no reason for a person to work in those jobs. There's no reason for anybody to work in an office job anymore. That's what the pandemic showed us. There's no reason for anybody in an office building. That's completely nonsensical. It's not even efficient. You know what I mean? You're putting people in a building and paying rent and using all this energy to light the building and do all this stuff. Forget that. That's stupid. So what does that mean? That means that there's a bunch of people who could be out of work and should have been out of work a long time ago. So the idea of universal basic income is not a bad idea, in the sense that you set the floor. You just set the floor. Like you get shelter, you get food.
The other thing is
the basic
too,
needs.
what's going to happen? What's going to happen in all these other buildings that are already existing? So in other words, you're going to
hydroponic garden would be great, wouldn't it? Make them turn into farm.
Well,
buildings.
there's a million ways you could repurpose those buildings, and there's a lot of people that are going to get rich doing it. And what they're going to do is they're going to rezone these buildings, these office chunk where people used to sit in cubicles. They're going to rezone those things, and they're going to make those into work-live spaces. And every single place that used to just to be rented out as an office is now going to be a place where someone can live, because there's so much housing shortages where people can't find rentals, especially like here, like for example, Steve, here when Seagate was here in Scotts Valley, we're up here in the Santa Cruz Mountains, Seagate was here. There was this little ecosystem that developed over there in Scotts Valley, and all this stuff got built. And then when Seagate went in shitter, all that little ecosystem died out, but the buildings are still here, right? So all those little offices and all this, so all that stuff's still here. But meanwhile, you can't rent a place in Santa Cruz for less than $1,800 for a studio.
No.
Go look.
You're crazy. No, you can't. Not even. No way. You might be able to find a granny unit that maybe has a bathroom in it, maybe not, for $1,500.
Dude, they were renting out storage.
Close to the flats.
They were renting out storage sheds and calling them a granny unit, and renting them out for $1,000. Because the thing is that what happens is, because the UC Santa Cruz is here, a lot of the homes got bought up by people, and they just rent these out to these college students that just hang on to these houses for like 4 years. And there's a bunch of people that live in one house. They just rent out the rooms. But what that does is that prices the locals out of the marketplace, because locals can't afford to work in Santa Cruz and live here. It's too expensive. The only way you can live in Santa Cruz is to work in San Jose, and that means you got to drive every single day from Santa Cruz back to San Jose. And so you can't make the same money. It's impossible. You can only make like minimum wage in Santa Cruz, basically. You're making the same money as a guy working on the boardwalk, at the standing there selling cotton candy. It's the same wage as
with what you walk away with at the end of the month. You're 100% right.
Yeah, man. It's almost,
you might as well be making $12 an hour.
So
if you make $140,000 a year, and you're paying 70% of that in rent.
And then it's like a 9% sales tax, and then there's tax on gas, and then there's inflation.
43 cents a gallon, I think isn't that what it is in California still? It might be more than that now.
Yeah. Well, there's a $4 tax on cigarettes. Yeah, pack of cigarettes, $13. $13 pack of cigarettes. Same pack of cigarettes in Colorado.
I didn't know that, man.
$6.
Like I don't smoke. So it's $13 for a pack of cigarettes. I think people need to know this who don't smoke. 'Cause I remember when a carton of cigarettes was less than $10.
$13, but you know, vaping's cheaper than smoking cigarettes, so switch over to vaping. You know, that's the that's the message. You know, oh, and it's just vapor, so you can blow it anywhere. It's just not smoke. It's not combusting. You know, combusting is so I don't know, primitive. The combustion method. You know, you need to vaporize, son. Learn how to.
So my dad smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day. So $39 a day. A minimum wage, that's your entire take-home pay and plus some. Think about that, right?
Sure.
Like so, yeah.
So what if that dude didn't get his cigarettes? There was an ass kicking coming to somebody that day. I'll just say that, you know, especially with all because you know, nicotine masks anger in the human beast.
Is that a fact?
That is a fact.
Holy shit!
It replaces something called neural buffers in your brain, and so when it replaces them, they aren't there anymore. So if you stop smoking, that's why non-smoking people try to quit, get edgy, is the things that normally keep you from overreacting aren't there anymore. And it takes 3 months for them to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you quit smoking 100%, it would take 3 months for the chemicals to come back. No, it's a totally nefarious drug, man. It's one of the worst drugs there is.
That's right. Yeah. And so, go ahead, Bruce.
No kidding, eh? Well, these little cigars have saved me from being a serial killer. Then, so I'm okay.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. It's better to smoke a cigarette stuck in traffic than follow somebody home and kick the shit out of them when they get out of their car. Right? It's better to just light up a cigarette and just go, oh well, you know, shit happens. You know, it's much better to do that, don't you think? I mean, I think the prisons are full of emotional moments that can't be erased, aren't they?
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that they put Sir Walter Raleigh in the Tower of London, right? Bringing back tobacco. They locked him up, but it wasn't from that. It was Queen Elizabeth supposedly had a crush on him, and there's all kinds of weird things about Queen Elizabeth at that time. But anyway, they locked him up in the Tower of London, and he still had his little tobacco garden that he cultivated while he was locked up there.
You know what makes? You know why I'm laughing? You know why I'm laughing? Are you telling me? Have you ever called up to liquor stores when you were a kid and go, "Hey man, you got any Sir Walter Raleigh in a can?"
No, I never did. I think the Bart Simpson joke.
Let him go.
Let him out before he suffocates. Hey man, did you ever light bags of paper bags of dog shit on fire on people's porches and ring the bell and run away?
Oh, it's a band name waiting to happen. Flaming Blues, right?
So yeah, I got into some serious mischief between like 13 and 15.
Mm-hmm.
A whole percentage of the kids I grew up with did federal time in Canada, and I grew up in a nice neighborhood, but I have to admit I escalated it when I took it to incendiaries, starting with Molotov cocktails and just getting detonation devices from there. It got completely out of hand.
It all started with the bag of shit on the doorstep, and they went.
I knew there was something about you I liked, Bruce.
Yeah, I grew up with 2 super strong guys. One was an Italian guy. I think this kid he had to have an operation to accelerate. He had to go on medication to accelerate puberty because he'd had 4 hernias before 12 years old. He was so hyperactive. And my other best friend was a full-blooded Ojibwa who has the biggest bones I've ever seen on a human being. His skull's just like the Great Pumpkin from Charlestown. And we used to go out at 14, and 3 of us could tip a car. And we used to do that on Devil's Night, the night before Halloween. We'd tip like 40 cars in 3 hours. Just tip them up on their side. Right?
Man, if you did any of the stuff that we used to do back in the day, seriously, and I hate saying that, but I mean, there was a back in the day, so I'm sorry.
Oh, bro.
There just was, but I'm just saying, I mean, dudes used to, I mean, back in the day, we should do a whole segment, back in the day, and
we carried a guy's car out into the middle of a football field.
Back in the day.
Incorrect.
Nice. You do have the bug for sure.
That would have required some logistics, like logs to put it up on, like a sedan or something, and about 12 people. That's impressive.
There were 8 of us, and it was like a Geo Metro or something.
Well,
It didn't weigh too much.
Back in the day when you could
get that extra strength because Geo Metro pisses you off just by seeing it.
Back in the day when you could carry that
That's
Geo
fair.
Metro out onto the field, that might have been a little bit after when you could drive around with a beer in your car, just sipping a beer. You know.
What, when the Geo Metro was around?
No, before that, before the Geo Metro,
Yeah.
you could drive around with a beer, and the only reason you would get in trouble is if you were drunk. But I mean, if you were driving with the beer and you passed the test, hey, see you later, Bob. Hey, do me a favor, pour that.
Can't. Oh, I wonder when. Let me find out.
You pour that out for me there, Bob, won't you?
In Texas,
I'm
when
just
I
saying,
was driving my friend in
listen.
Texas, went to go visit him in the 80s, and the passenger could drive with, he could drink beer. They just changed the law. Like, used to be you could drive in Texas with the beer, if you're describing. But now the passenger could drive with the beer, but not the driver.
Man, in Texas.
So basically, I had to do is hand the beer to the passenger.
Dude, in Texas, you could drive around with a beer and a shotgun in your mouth as your passenger's driving down the road. There wouldn't be anything wrong with that, would there? I mean,
It's Texas, man.
Well, I'm just
It's a different
saying,
world,
carrying firearms is something you can do, and some people like to act a fool, you know. You know what I mean? I'm just saying you couldn't get away with this shit if you did any of the stuff that people did just back in the day. Now there'd be like a whole riot squad that would show up and with SWAT teams and dudes snipers on the roof across the street. We've got an interloper.
Ken's in the chat, right? I gotta say, when I was in Australia in 1983 or 4, I guess 84, it was a huge scandal. Might have been early 1985. It was 1985, I think. But anyway, it was a huge scandal because the law had just changed, because underage drinkers. This is the whole thing. Underage, they shouldn't be drinking in the first place, right? Underage drinkers, they raised or lowered the limit. It used to be 0.25 to 0.2. So, yeah, what the hell is that all about, man? You're not supposed to drink in the first place.
I just came across something I gotta read. It'll
Dude.
take maybe 2 minutes.
No, don't
Is
worry
it
about
okay,
it.
Jimmy?
Yeah, we got
It's
nothing
gonna
but.
blow your mind.
Yeah, go ahead. We got
Gonna-
nothing.
Okay, so this is what I call, and this ties into the last book I worked on. So the Matrix is cracking, and one of the reasons that the hologram is cracking, the nature of our reality is fracturing, is we've never had access to this much data before. And the spiritus mundi, or the collective mind, shares data unconsciously. We have a collective dream space as a human species. You got to hear this. Okay. Abraham Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846. John F. Kennedy was elected to Congress in 1946. Lincoln was elected president in 1860, Kennedy president in 1960. Both were particularly concerned with civil rights. Both wives lost a child while living in the White House. Both presidents were shot on a Friday. Both were shot in the head. Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy. Kennedy's secretary was named Lincoln. Both were assassinated by Southerners. Both were succeeded by Southerners named Johnson. And Andrew Johnson succeeded Lincoln. Who succeeded Lincoln was born in 1808. Lyndon Johnson, who succeeded Kennedy, was born in 1908. John Wilkes Booth, who assassinated Lincoln, was born in 1839. Lee Harvey Oswald, who assassinated Kennedy, was born in 1939. Both assassins were known by their 3 names. Both names are composed of 15 letters. Lincoln was shot at the theater named Ford. Kennedy was shot in a car called Lincoln, made by Ford. Both Oswald and Booth were assassinated before their trials. A week before Lincoln was shot, he was in Monroe, Maryland. A week before Kennedy was shot, he was with Marilyn Monroe. Lincoln was shot in a theater, and the assassin ran to a warehouse. Kennedy was shot from a warehouse, and the assassin ran to a theater. You believe that shit?
When I was a junior in high school, my history teacher, Art Miller. He told that right up to when a week before Lincoln died, he was in Monroe, Maryland, and then he goes, and right before he died, well, and then he just kind of left it.
Marilyn Monroe, right?
and so I mean, a room full of 17-year-olds, and so everybody got it. It was hilarious. But yeah, it is absolutely fascinating.
There was a ritual called the Sacrifice of the King or something like that, right? That was going on that day in Dallas.
King Kill 33.
Yeah.
Well, anybody here ever read Sir Robert Fraser's The Golden Bough, the book that started the science of anthropology? This is everybody when all these sovereign citizen types on alternative radio make their case, they always make it from the case of themselves. They don't see the totality of it, okay? Another reason the system was brought in is built into human nature is lethal liability for mismanagement and leadership. So pretty much every pre-modern civilization would execute a leader who had 2 years of crop failure. And it was always a ritualistic killing. In every European tribe, the pre-modern Italians, the Eastern Europeans. I highly recommend all you listeners, if anybody still reads, read The Golden Bough by Robert Fraser, a study on myth and religion.
That's a great recommendation, Bruce. Really great.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember an animated film called Wizards?
I do. It was an acid film from the 70s. Yeah, absolutely.
All I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just giving you this one. We're getting close to the end of the show, so tonight I'm giving you Wizards. Type it in and YouTube. You can watch it in its entirety, and I'm going to tell you right now, it is a masterpiece. And when it came out, it was running around at the same time with Heavy Metal. So Heavy Metal was the headlining movie that night, and they had Wizards was the movie on before it. And no one ever heard of Wizards, but everybody heard of Heavy Metal. And I'm telling you, and even when I saw Wizards in the day, I had no idea what it was about in the way that I do now. In other words, I was seeing a movie, I was watching the pictures or whatever, I was getting an impression. But now with what I know all these years later, and to see the symbology there and the representation of what's going on, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's great. And check it out, Wizards. That's my little recommendation for tonight. So we got about 10 minutes left. 626-999-4761. 626-999-4761.
You want to.
WTF Wednesday.
That's
and you
right.
Can swear.
That's right. You can swear. But, what the fuck? The What the Fuck Parrot stopped by, but I had to throw a towel over him earlier because Epic let him out of the cage. My name's Jimmy. It's in the Microcosm Mouth.fm. Bruce McDonald, Steve Boykinen, Epic Journeyman, and myself. We're here all night long. Oh, wait. Well, for 9 more minutes, anyways. It's in the microcosm.
First you say no, got some plans for the night, and then you stop and say, alright, love is kinda crazy with a spooky little girl like you. You always keep me guessing, I never seem to know what you are thinking. And if some fella looks at you, it's for sure your little eye will be a winking. I
It's Aftermath FM. It's into the microphone. I'm Jimmy. 626-999-4761. 626-999-4761. You guys are sending messages over there. I didn't see what they were. Is anything important?
Well, spooky. No,
Do I need to run?
You know, Atlanta Rhythm Section, man.
I know.
They are so good.
They were good.
I mean, everybody likes them when they listen to them. They may not know who they are, but man, they're so tight. They're such a good band.
They are tight. They are. Chadwick in the Aftermath chat said Spooky is a song about Danny. So even when Danny's not here, people are still talking about her.
Oh, maybe that should be her song. There you go.
She likes being unusual. I don't know if she likes being spooky, but she might like being spooky because I know she likes being kooky. So she's spooky, kooky, and ooky, just like the Addams Family, obviously, because we did the show and she was dressed up like Wednesday, wasn't she? So maybe she is spooky. I don't know.
There was a whole thing about Wednesday we didn't get into in that show. We don't have time to get into it now. But Wednesday, man, there's a whole thing about Wednesday.
Well, wait till tomorrow. Today's Wednesday, but wait till tomorrow because that's Thursday, and that's when Danny will be back. So you can ask her specifically and personally, and then everybody in the chat room can get their yah-yahs out while she's back here, and they can talk to her directly. So, Steve, tell everybody where they can find you, man. We only got a few more minutes left here before we got a exit stage left. Go ahead.
SlowNewsDayShow.com, Rockfin.com/SlowNewsDay. I'm on Twitter at SlowNewsDayShow. This Sunday, I will also be on Aftermath FM at 10 a.m. on the West Coast, 1 p.m. on the East Coast. Our guest will be Christian Westbrook, the Ice Age Farmer, and that will be an absolutely incredible conversation.
That will be, man. I'll be tuning in for that. And you know, right before you come on, guess what, son? I'm right in front.
Jimmy Jean is on the air and in your ear hole.
Except for
with the Sunday morning wake and bake.
That's right, man. But it's nothing negative, man. It's all just music and talking about guitars and different stuff and playing different people. You know, so maybe sometime before you go on, man, check in Skype. I know you hate Skype, but just check in there and come on, and you can pop in for a minute and tell everybody who's listening to music what you're going to be talking about right before you come on.
Absolutely, I will do that.
10-4.
I will, yeah. And I'll be traveling at the end of the month. I'll be shooting my first documentary film. I'm going to be on the West Coast leg and final stop of the Home Run for Julian tour. John and Gabriel Shipton, Julian Assange's father and brother, are in the United States advocating on his behalf this month. There's a 16-city tour. I'm going to pick it up in Denver and go Denver, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and then D.C. for the final day.
Didn't you guys get some good video at the protest up there in Washington in January?
Yeah.
So I mean, you guys kind of. I mean, you got so did that spark you to want to do documentaries? I mean, what made you all of a sudden? I mean, have you always thought that you were going to do one, or I mean?
I've been wanting to do. I've been wanting to do something, I guess, around specifically the free speech activism and the Assange activism, in the form of a documentary. I didn't really know what it was going to look like or how it was going to come together. And then this tour was announced. And I was like, holy shit, that's it, because I can at least go and be a part of the tour itself in multiple cities, get to interview multiple organizers and like on the ground activists. The documentary is going to be shot from like that perspective, but with the father of a tortured political prisoner as the primary three-dimensional subject on camera.
Well, I mean, I think it'll be good, man. And you know, the thing is, what's interesting too is like as you're going through stuff and in the moment, there's so much going on. It's hard to pay attention to stuff. But afterwards, when you put a documentary together and you sit down and you look at it all and you're seeing all those moments, you start remembering stuff you didn't know about. You forgot about it, or you didn't hear that person because you were busy looking at something else or you're doing something, and in that moment you didn't hear what someone said. But then when you go back and listen, you're like, wow, you know, we caught this on camera, and it's an unbelievable moment. So I mean, documentaries, films, and especially live documentaries, you know, things are happening in the moment. You know, like for example, when the World Trade Organization and the battle in Seattle, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? When you look back at those, and you remember when they were trying to do that, organize the world. You remember what used to happen? They used to build a big zone, and you know there's the buffer zones and all this shit. You remember that, Steve?
Funny, I got my head split open at the battle for Seattle.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's wild, man. See, people forget, man. See how soon they forget. People were literally battling in Seattle over.
That was a legit event, man. It really was, and it deserves more credit than people
Dude,
give
there
it.
was that whole thing got out of fucking. There were a handful of agents provocateur, and the fucking cops just swooped in on a dime, dude. And just ready to wreck shop.
Yeah.
It was all bad.
Well,
It
hey,
was
man.
all
And
bad.
that was the first time that I really thought inside the United States borders that Eric Prince's group Blackwater was the agent provocateurs. That was intentional. They set that up, and yeah,
We're out
the
of
first
time.
time that I saw in our country, like
We're out of time.
For a fact, that's
we're out
probably
of
what happened.
time. Okay, Steve. Steve, next week we're talking about the battle from Seattle, man. The battle
All
in
right.
Seattle. Next Wednesday. All right.
Good
All right.
deal.
Bruce McDonald, we got 1 minute. Everybody, we got to go. I'm sorry, we got to go. More show, not enough time. Bill, you want to tell everybody they can find you, Bruce?
Oh yeah, man. Amazon books. Bruce
Mac.
McDonald.
Mac.
Read a book.
Read a
Yeah,
book.
read a lazy bastards. Read a book.
Read a book.
All right. Looks like a ghost town. Time for us to go. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, tabletop exercise, G. Gordon Liddy article from 1989, Omni Magazine. We're going to do it live, tabletop. Scorpio's going to be here. Giuseppe's going to be here. Everyone's going to be here. Get ready. Tomorrow night, live, tabletop exercise.
This storm is coming like a ghost town. All the clubs are being closed down. This place is coming like a ghost town.
All right, there we go. We're out of there. No one heard that thing about tomorrow night because we were already gone. I was looking at the clock and not the connection button. So there you go, everybody. Another one bites the dust.
Are we still over on the YouTubes though?
We
We're
are.
on YouTube.
We are, but we're about to not be though because I have
well,
to.
good night, YouTube.
I have to get going, man, because I got shit to do. But listen, Steve-O. I said I'd never call you Steve-O, and I called you Steve-O again. So
Damn it.
You can call
True.
me Jimbo. You owe me one Jimbo. All right.
When you least expect it.
All right. Well, listen. I just got a new studio space over here, over in Scotts Valley. So text me or whatever, and we'll get together. So I'll show you the space for it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I'm putting a studio together over there to do shows. That's where I'm going to be doing shows from now on. So over there. So and it'll be set up so we can have few people or whatever. So we want to do some local shit about some stuff.
Jam.
going- Yeah, we can riff. All right, let's get out of here, man. I gotta go. All right, everybody.
y'all.
All right, everybody. Thanks,
Adios,
Bruce.
everybody.
Thanks, Bruce.
Should
Have
say
a good night.
aloha, but San Diego comes through.
I know. And hey, man, whenever I'm in trouble, I always go to San Diego in my mind, ladies and gentlemen. Because San Diego's nice. All right. It's 70 degrees pretty much every day of the year there. Average.
It is.
Average. But, you know. Anyways, there we go.